Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and, with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome to Nightlight, everybody. I've got a great show for you today. I'm really excited about this one because it gave me the experience of trying out an old, tried and true method of reading that hasn't been in the mode, so to speak, for thousands of years, but I found very exciting. Von Braschler has written a scroll instead of a book, and it's going to be a series of wisdom scrolls, and I'm very excited about it because while it seemed unique and strange at first, I found that it actually made reading easier and was far more enjoyable than a textbook. So go figure. Maybe the ancients had it better than we did. The first in this series of scrolls is on past lives, and it's the whole series is an innovative series that allows modern readers to learn like the ancient. This one examines past lives, not only the fact that we have all lived before, but also that we will do so again. It explores the key evidence from clinical studies and case histories of people who remember previous lives with remarkable clarity and accuracy. We learn about how many people catch glimpses of their past lives in lucid dreams, daydreams, visions, deep meditation, and near-death experiences. And we examine the impact that the key books on the in key books like the Tibetan Book of the Dead is now having in hospitals with consciousness dying as a way to approach physical death in a heightened sense of awareness. The idea of past lives has fascinated people from many traditions for ages, and this new publication considers everything from past life memories to various views on the progression of the souls. And some of the topics that are covered are deja vu experiences, dreams of past lives, near-death insights, reincarnation, Jung's view of the collective consciousness, transformation of souls, relocation of souls, transmigration of souls, the journey of souls, group souls, a lot of soul work, and the oneness of all in life. Von is the author of many books on consciousness development, including Past Lives, Manifesting Mysterious Messages from Beyond, Time Shifts, and 7 Secrets of Time Travel. He's a former member of the Omega Center for Holistic Studies and a former award-winning journalist. We've had him on the show before. He's always fascinating. There's no doubt about that. And I have to tell you that reading a scroll instead of a book was probably one of the most enjoyable experiences I've had in a long time. It allows you to create a flow in your awareness and your consciousness that is not like turning a page. You flow section to section to section. And it enables you to become more engrossed in the material. This scroll is amazingly informative and it's been thoroughly researched on so many different levels that it was fascinating to me, and the amount of work that went into putting the material together in such a manner as to not give you something that weighed 4,200 pounds, but it made its subject far more enjoyable to read about. You flow with the material as you don't often with a book. This is not a page turner as much as a scroll roller, and I was thoroughly intrigued by it. He's going to come back, and we're going to do another scroll on lucid dreams later on in the fall. But for now, I want to welcome you to the show, Vaughn. So glad you can make it.
Hi, Barbara. Gee, you've done such a wonderful job of describing it. I don't know what I could add. Thank you.
Well, what I found fascinating was that in a traditional book, there are chapters, and you have sections. But what I found fascinating was that the research that you've put into this material is clearly so far and above what one might have put into a book, because in a book you have chapters and you can put as much material in there as you want, but you've been very selective as to the material that you've put in, and it just, like I've said, you flow through the material on a scroll as you do not with a book. I mean, were you aware that was going to happen?
Yeah, kind of. I'm a trained journalist, so I'm used to writing magazine style. So, I mean, this is kind of how I approached it. Like, if somebody gave me the whole magazine and said, Vaughn, fill up all the pages, write a long article, that's what I would do. So I think it's kind of written in my own mind. It was written magazine style. I wanted it to flow like that, and I also wanted it to be an honest, balanced look at what various cultures throughout history have thought of past lives. And this is ancient wisdom tradition, ancient wisdom knowledge. So I mean, I wanted it to have some respect for the ancients, all the way back to the Mesopotamians and the Egyptians and the Greeks and the Tibetans and even the Samadhi mystics, and certainly the Native Americans, and so that there are not like anecdotes here where some author is telling you about his great vision or his great insight or his own personal anecdotes. I don't have that. I mean, I didn't have that luxury, I guess you'd say. I wanted to stick right to the ancient wisdom tradition because I'm, to use the term, I'm not a New Ager. I mean, I like to study the classics. So when I research something, I try to read Plato. People think, oh, geez, Vaughn, there's been something written since then, but not a lot really good.
No,
I'm sorry.
True.
Yep.
No, I think what I loved about it was that, I mean, while reading people's personal experiences is can be fun, the reality is what it was they were experiencing, not their personal experience of it. And I see you cut out all of that other stuff, and you got right to the meat of the matter. And I found that wonderful. I was just so delighted to see how you went into explanation of these different areas, and yet you didn't go into, well, Joe experienced this, and Mary experienced this, and Sydney experienced this, and it's frankly they're great stories, but unless the person can actually identify with it, it's just reading somebody else's experiences. So
I try to bring it right up to date as far as I'm concerned. Like Ian Stevenson's Children Who Remember Past Lives, and Tom Schroeder's Old Souls, Tom Rucker's Life Before Life. All of those. And Dr. Raymond Moody, who started out studying near-death experience, and ended up realizing he had a lot of clinical observation as a psychologist into past lives, and that's all really valid, really valid. And this is something not new, but it continues for each one of us, and will continue for all of us.
Well, I know a lot of people play around with, well, I was Cleopatra, and I was Henry VIII, and I was, I don't know, Napoleon or King Tut or whatever, and that's not the purpose of a past life, which
no.
I think people understand. I mean, we've done everything. Certainly, you've been, and see, this is where most people get, back up on me. But your purpose of a spirit traveling through many different lifetimes is to experience all aspects, and that means that you've been a beggar, and you've been a king, and you've been a female, and you've been a male, and so let's explain to them kind of what the purpose of past lives are. It's not hopscotching through time. There's a purpose between the past lives. So what exactly, how would you explain the purpose of a past life to someone?
Well, I think that, we are meant to experience in a physical life with our own consciousness, and then based on that experience in the set of circumstances that have largely been tailored for us by us in this lifetime for meaningful, synchronicity and karma in our lifetime, that in the end, at the end of this life cycle, which I'm not going to say is death, just the end of this life cycle, you are going to add to the collective consciousness of all. And it's a huge body of work. So in a sense, we all do have the experience or the collective conscious memories to a degree of a Cleopatra or Napoleon, but not having lived that necessarily, but having been a part of that collective continuum of consciousness. So I think that I'm not a astrologer, so I'm going to probably muff this, but it's my understanding that in astrology, people typically believe that you will live several lifetimes in a certain sign, under a certain sign, and everything that living in that sign, whether it's an air sign or a water sign or earth sign, you're going to experience a lot many times over. And then, then you're going to move on to another sign, maybe from another house, whether it's earth, air, fire, or water, there's elements, and I think that's probably true if you want to look at that we all come through with an energy signature that we would call our governing ray, the ray of our birth. There's only really one ray, and it's broken like a prism into seven rays, like the rainbow we see in the sky, and that every one of us has that energy signature that we come into the world with, primarily, and that may not be your whole. That might not be your ray in every incarnation, because you're going to experience life a little different each time, building upon the past and adding to the collective consciousness. That's the important part.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that as a spirit / you use the word soul, I use the word spirit. So I'm going to try to use them interchangeably so people can understand where we're coming from.
I'm okay with that. I struggle with that one. Yes, go ahead.
So the in my studies, we have the physical, and then we have the mental / soul level, and then we have the spirit level, and the bottom ones, dissipate with the body, but the spirit carries on. So actually, with that experience, it's the spirit is here to experience physical reality, and quite often we don't get the message the first, second, or third time. Sometimes an experience has to be learned through many different lifetimes, so that all of us here have been through millions of lifetimes, most probably, still gathering that information. And when we come into a lifetime, we have sort of targeted areas we want to have further experience in. But I don't believe we are able to say, this is how I want to experience it. This is something else I want to learn more of. And then in the actual physical reality, we are given the opportunity to grow that quality or not, but we have free will, so that, somebody could take a look at a lesson and say, not this time, I don't think so, I'll pass. And, and that's okay.
Yeah. I agree. I think, in fact, that we self-program our lives, and I think that the lords of karma can be found in your mirror. That is, you're going to get some input. I think we all belong to a soul group. And a lot has been written on that. I mean, I was able to work with Dr. Michael Newton, Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls, and I think that we do. I think that we do actually belong to a soul group or a cluster group with whom we incarnate many, many times. And this will be your mother or your daughter or your neighbor or even your adversary in your next life.
Yeah.
We are just destined to go with that. Those are your people, And I do agree with you that the vehicle that we carry, throughout time is our spirit. But I strongly think that there is a separate identity known as the soul, and I don't want to get into that because there's lots of ways to look at it, and you've defined a perfectly valid explanation. I think that we belong to one collective soul. That's what I think, and I think that your spirit I think that your spirit is your vehicle that carries you through, and to me, the spirit is another way. It's not quite exactly the same, but it's the way of describing your inner higher self, or your inner self, or the self that dwells within, or however you want to look at it. And some people would call it your consciousness, and sometimes people call it your higher consciousness, and I think it's higher. It's your higher consciousness when it links with the universal consciousness. That is part of our life goal, our mission in life, is to link our own inner consciousness with universal consciousness, and ultimately we will download. and that point is when you complete a round, known as a life, and you return to source, just like in The Wizard of Oz. You go home, you click your heels, and you're back again, just like a dream, and you're going to download everything to NEM that you've seen, and that is going to be what you have to add. That's what you've learned. It might not be enough. The sad thing is people don't become familiar with their spirit, you see, and so they become lost, and they have this sense of isolation or alienation in the world, that they're just one little snowflake, and they don't fit into anything. This is the saddest thing of our time, is this sense of alienation. And really we are linked to a great continuum of consciousness.
That's true. And I think also today so many people are so focused on just the physical reality, they have lost the connection with the fact that there is a universal family that they belong to, that there is a universal soul that they belong to, and they tend to think that I have to make it or break it this lifetime, and I understand ambition.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing to have, but the reality is that I'm going to complete this lifetime what I'm here to complete. I am here until I have finished what I contracted to do. And that doesn't mean I'm a failure if it doesn't reach the same expectations of another person of me. And if I leave a work half finished, then that's the way it's supposed to be. And it's I think so many people just see themselves only as the avatar the spirit rides in, as opposed to the spirit that is driving.
People don't realize that this life is a great adventure. Every great adventure, you plan for that, and you take with you what you need, and you have an agenda what you're going to do, and you expect challenges along the way. That's part of it. It's exploration and discovery, and a lot of people just get up and they think life should be easy. Life should not be easy. My first teacher was Lewis Gittner, the psychic author. And he said, Vaughn, you've heard the expression, go with the flow. I said, yes, Lewis. And he said, forget it. Just forget it. He said, you learn to swim upstream like a salmon. He says, life is supposed to be a challenge. It's a moment, it's a time of discovery and insight, and get with it.
Well, it makes great sense. And I think
it does.
Especially with today with being given a time out by the world for a couple of years where everybody had a chance to spend time getting to know themselves better because they had no other choice. Even with that, I find still there are people that are forgetting that they're on a journey, and it's a spiritual journey, not a life journey. And
exactly,
so it's kind of like understanding how your adventures apply to the spiritual development inside of you is really important, and catching glimpses of past lives is so much fun. But if you get caught up in just that, then it's sort of like then you're spending so much time in the present looking at the past, you're forgetting there's a future.
That's it. And you can't explore the past and you can't explore the future. I've written on that too, and I think that people just become so fixated on the now. They never think that there's going to be a tomorrow, or there was most certainly a past. And the past wasn't just when you were a little girl or a little boy. It was like way back then. When Dr. Newton started his practice, he like all psychologists, he would have his patients go back as far as they could. He was going to find out what was wrong with them, right? How did they become broken as a child? How did they become broken? And he would put them in deep hypnosis. And some of these people went back to past lives, and that was very valid. Because the past forms where you are now, and it's going to pass. And it's going to form where you're going to go. And you don't have to lie on the doctor's couch. You can do this. You can regress, and maybe that's the wrong term. You can go through past life regression, or in some kind of induced consciousness altered state where you actually go back and experience your distant past. And you can also have a glimpse into the future, because we're so fixated on the here and now that we forget there's anything else.
True, and I think it's important for us to do some examination, and if it weren't important, we wouldn't be getting signals from the spirit within us to things that happened in the past. And I think that's, it's sort of being discerning and having a balance in what you're getting. If spirit is giving you insight into a past life, it's not just for fun and games. Spirit doesn't sit there and try to play with us. Its job is to in some ways signal where a pathway is. You choose whether or not you're going to take it. And so that's one of the reasons why I love how you how you put your material forward with the first 4 sections, dealing with how we get signals from the spirit about past lives. And so let's go a little bit into some of them. And
sure,
what is the spirit is going to give you nibbles of past lives, and while it's important to sort of look at them and try to see how they apply to and here's the thing: if you're getting a nibble from spirit, it applies to this lifetime. It isn't just fun and games and change the channel. There's something
No.
from that past life, something from that experience that you remember that applies to something that's going on in your life right now. So the first one you talked about was deja vu experiences.
Yeah. I think people overlook that, and on the subject of spirit, we have to learn to listen. A lot of people say, "Oh, little voices inside me are trying to get me off the track." I have to stick to my schedule: eat, sleep, work. No, there's more, folks. So when you get a deja vu moment, these are moments that are calling for your attention. This is spirit saying, "Look at this one." Look at this one. Now, first of all, it's a deja vu moment. So it's not part of your stored memory within your physical brain. It is something that spirit has brought to you. It is part of your deeper eternal consciousness, your spirit that's speaking to you. And it's saying, look. And so, what kind of experiences are these deja vus? Well, there's several. There's I see you, and I don't know you, but I know you. This is probably one of your soul group, that you've been with, or somebody that you recall from a past life, or somebody that spirit wants you to know. It's something really important. But deja vu is usually something that is jogging your deep conscious memory on a spirit level, deep within you, that's saying, well, there's something back there that I need to recall and analyze and respond to because it's important. It's a clue. It's a clue. It's like Odysseus on his great voyage. One of my favorite books is The Odyssey. And not that I love stories of the sea or Greeks that fight the gods, but it's like an allegory, right? And everything is for him to become a stronger person in the end. So he has all these challenges and all these things put in front of him. And why in the world are all these things put in front of him? Well, you could take it on one level. It's just it's just making life tough. Life is tough. Well, no, a deja vu moment, back to deja vu, is this is something you need to see. And you'll have these in a series, like synchronicity. You'll have them repeated over and over, but it might be slightly different next time. It's like, have I seen you before? I know you. The other one is you come into a place, and there's no way in the world you've ever been there before, but you know that place. Or you come upon a situation. You say, I've had this whole thing happen before, but for the life of me, I have no memory of it. Now, the test of this is you search your memory, your physical stored memory within your physical mind, and you say, well, is it there? I mean, did I see a picture? Have I forgotten? There must be something there. And if there's nothing there, no, it's a deep memory from your spirit. And I think we have to listen to them as important.
Oh, yeah. And I think also I would kind of probably throw in there all of the clairs, the clairsentience, clair. I know that there have been times when I have caught a whiff of something, and it's taken me back to a time or a place, and it stops me dead in my tracks because the memory is so clear and the smell is so clear, or the taste in my mouth is so clear, or and so it's when it happens to you, it's like, isn't that cool? And then you kind of you kind of let it go.
For some people, these memories of the past will come like this, these deja vu memories, and they'll come to you like clairaudience, but there's so many different ways that these can happen to you. With me, it's touch. Go figure, right? So we all have different points at where we access this, but they're important, and you have to. And if you don't pay attention, it will come back to you because you are forced to see it over and over until you experience it and resolve it and analyze it, and more importantly, take it within you and incorporate it. You know, the message has to go within you. You become the message. You know,
I think when those things happen, so many people say, "Well, wasn't that cool?" and then they get on with their life. And I tell people that even if they're not somebody who journals, to keep a journal of those experiences, because it's your spirit trying to get a message across to you. And if you don't get it the first time, they'll send it again and again and again. And the reality is, once you start writing them down, you are linking them to your physical reality and creating a flow, a channel through which spirit can send you even more. And so go ahead.
I was going to say I like to meditate on them so that I give my inner self an opportunity to analyze it, and I don't involve my analytical mind in doing so, because it really wasn't part of the episode. It's kind of outside its frame of reference. So I think that if you allow your inner consciousness to meditate on it, then you can take the message within you better.
Oh, absolutely.
And spirit analyzes things in a different way than our analytical mind. You know, it is I think hard for a lot of people to understand that, but you have to let it just like wash over you, and then it takes it and it incorporates it into its being, you know, your inner working spirit, and then it's very important to take the message within you.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just you don't just look at it as an object on a surface or on a table or something in front of you. You don't just This is not just the passing parade. You know, when you see when you see as Blavatsky saw her masters walking in a parade as a little girl, and you see them years later, you know, they meant for her to take that message and put it inside her. You know, it is important. All of these things are important.
Oh, absolutely. And I think I want to go back to one thing you've said, because you will meet people that you will know them, but there's a certain amount of discernment that is necessary. Sometimes it's somebody that you know was not a good experience, but you remember it, and maybe this time you want to soften the relationship to a certain degree. Some people, especially women that really want to have a relationship, and when they know someone, it's like, you know, it's, you know, this is my soulmate, I'm supposed to be with that someone, and it's sort of like, not necessarily. Just let's give it some time, let it play out. Just relax into the moment and know that there's a recognition, but you're not sure what it is. You know, I don't want to say this person could have, you know, enslaved you in a past life, you know, and so give this time to work out. Don't judge it. Just allow it to play out so that you recognize that there is a connection, but you don't know what that connection is initially.
Yeah, exactly. They're not all going to be soulmates, but they're going to be important in your life. And they are probably soul family. So
soul
family, that's the key, yeah. So I met what I thought was my soulmate, and we did determine that we had memories of past lives together, more than one. And we concluded that while we'd been married in the past, that really what we were was, I'll just use the word twin flames. We're part of this soul family, or these spirits that incarnate together over and over and over, part of our family of wandering spirits. And this is part of my cluster family, you know, my spirit cluster family, and very important. So we decided that we were going to work together. She works at her end, and I work at mine. We occasionally touch bases because we have pretty much the same mission in life.
Well, I think that's truly important, and I think it's important for people to also understand that the soul, the spirit agenda, is far different from the human agenda.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there's so much about a physical life, the way we live it, that is so illusionary. We have a sense of physicality that is really not accurate. I mean, the whole idea of time and space, the way we experience it, is not real. In a deeper sense, a whole idea of motion. There's so many things.
Yeah.
But then people say, well, then we should just all become renunciate, live in a cave and meditate. No, I mean, life is to be lived for a reason. You are meant to live this life, and for the greater good. You are meant to live this life, and because you're going to add your voice, the song you sing, uniquely yours, is going to add to the great chorus.
Absolutely, but I think it's kind of, for me it's I love having the knowledge that there is a spirit inside me, often tearing its hair out because I am going a direction may not be quite what it had in mind, but it's always, to me, a joy to pick up these hints from spirit. And another one is dreams of past lives, and certainly those can be very real and very, very amazing. And
very
again,
impactful. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, in our dreams, our spirit is able to give us far more information than in our waking conscious awareness, because in our awaking awareness we are analytical. In our sleeping awareness, we are more open to experiencing something and drawing insight from that.
Very true. And we'll speak more about that in the fall when we talk about lucid dreaming. But I firmly believe that we're living out our daily lives, this work, eat, sleep life we live, is largely sleepwalking. But when we're really dreaming, really seriously dreaming, not just hashing over terrible thoughts in our inner mind, but really dreaming, and we're going out and exploring and flying in our dreams, that's when we're really awake. And I think, ironically, when we're dreaming, we're awake, and when we're awake, we're dreaming. I think it's crazy. But I think that there's a lot of important work that can be done in our dreams, and part of that is exploring our past lives and even our futures.
Yes, that's the exciting part of it. We do have a part in planning out what comes next, and again, so many people say, well, in my next life I'm going to have more money, or I'm going to have more this, and it's kind of like you're talking from a human point of view, not a spiritual point of view. So God bless and plan away, but your spirit may have a whole other plan for you. So
that's right.
It's sort of like those people that say to me, well, this is my last life. I've taken classes and workshops, and I've experienced everything, and I am very proficient in all of the different, talents and abilities that we have, and so I won't have to come back here again. And when I was much younger, I would say, oh, no, you of course you have to. And then I get in arguments. And now I just agree with them, and I say, you're absolutely right. Your personality will not be back again, but your spirit may have another thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long, long, long journey, and personally, I think it never, ever, ever will end, ever. I think it just goes on and on and on like this because the nature of all the creation is just expanding and growing, and it really is just simply based on consciousness, and consciousness is hungry to grow.
Oh, absolutely. And the more that we learn and experience, the more there is out there. I mean, it's kind of like the more I learn, the less I know. And there's a whole spectrum out there that is available to us. And then once we get into those different rays or spectrums, we realize that, whoops, there's a whole bunch more here. So you can never learn it. You can't. If in my opinion, if you're not learning, there's no point in being here.
Yeah,
so,
and there's a huge difference between reading about something and studying these things, going to all these workshops and keeping copyist notes. I used to laugh at all these people that have a backpack and a notepad, and they write everything down, and they think they got it. They own it. You have to live it. And I'm not saying that you have to live a certain life, but you have to experience things. If you don't experience something, it's not real.
Well, I wrote someplace, it's on my website someplace, I'm pretty sure, and it was like, you can be a parrot or a prophet. If you are quoting something chapter and verse, if you've memorized it and you spew it back at people chapter and verse, that's the parrot. If you take that information inside you, incorporate it into that which you are, and if it's what you are living, then you become the prophet. That's it. Yeah. So that gives everybody who doesn't have a great memory for chapter and verse a good out. But
exactly. Really.
It's a matter of you don't learn it unless you live it. And if you're living your philosophy, then that's it. You got it. But
and you have to learn to listen to your spirit. This is my teacher, Louis Gittner, again, he told me, there's 3 things I want you to always remember because I don't know how long I'll be with you, Vaughn. He said, do you want to write them down? I said, 3 things. He said, I'll remember if they're that important. And I might have said this on your last show. I always say this. First thing is listen. He said, do you want to write? Sit this down. I said, no, listen, I got it. The second thing is listen. And the third thing is listen, 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 listen. He said, he thought we'd all forget, so we wrote a book about it called Listen, Listen, Listen. But we don't listen to our spirit. And this is who's driving. This is who's driving your karma. This is it.
Yeah. No, it's. I think it's exciting especially when I'm talking to someone who is biblically oriented and giving me chapter and verse, and it was not on a radio show because I would never do this on a radio show. I would never confront somebody on the radio show. My job is to make you look good. But after the show, I said, you kept quoting this one chapter and verse, and he said, oh yeah, chapter da 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 da, and I said, what does it mean? And
exactly, yeah.
And he was very quiet, and he's, and it's like, he said, well, it means, and he re-quoted it, and I said, no, I hear the words, but what does it mean? And he couldn't give me an explanation. But I would never do that on the show.
It is sad. I sometimes get ambushed in some, not yours, some shows like that, and they want me to all make this wash with a certain religious orientation, and I can't. I can't tell them what was in St. Paul's mind. That was his mind. It was his truth. But we all have to live our own truth. We have to, and we all are searching alone. It's a lonely thing, finding your truth. But we need to get with it and on it.
Well, that's what you just said is so profound, because my truth may not be your truth, and it may not be the next guy's truth, but it's my truth, and it's 100% accurate for me. And so that it's finding your own personal truth is almost like allowing yourself to, and I don't like the term religion because it has bad connotations, but your spiritual belief is something that is unique unto you. And it was, you created it as you evolved. And every time you evolve, you add another dimension to it, which makes an even bigger truth for you. But nobody's right and nobody's wrong. It just is. And so it's a matter, these people that have groups who stick to a certain philosophy and don't bend and don't open and aren't open to discussion. It's right for them. It's not right for me. Yeah, and
I think you can't really be a follower. I mean, as Krishnamurti said, truth is a pathless land. You have to be your own teacher. You have to be your own student. No one can take you to the water and drink. You've got to find it yourself and drink and experience it for yourself. There's no other way.
Someone once said to me, "Am I on the right path?" And I said, "Okay, so look down at your feet." And they did. And I said, "Is there a pathway in front of you?" And they said, "No." I said, "Then you're on the right path. Make your own."
That's exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah. There's going to be no path that's going to take you there. You're going to make your path.
Yeah.
And a lot of people want to get on the path, and they want someone to lead them down the path, and then explain what it all meant, and then give them a certificate that they found the path. And
I've met people that have binders full of certificates, and and it's like, one woman brought it and showed it to me, and I said, "This is really great," and I was leafing through it. I said. And I picked one, and I said, "What does this mean?" And I said, "Well, I'm a master of that aspect." And I asked her a question. She said, "I don't know." And I said, "But you're a master of that particular." I said, "You have a wonderful notebook here that could probably paper a room or two, but unless you are, first of all, you're only a master of your own destiny." So that
that's it.
I said to someone once, a long time ago, I could tell you exactly what I've done from birth to right now. You could replicate it exactly, and you would not be where I am right now, because that was my path. And that's and it's important. I believe it's important to not know where your path is taking you, because what's the point? If you know where you're going, there's no point to the trip.
Yeah, exactly. You have to learn
You have to learn to just have faith, and but the next thing that you talked about was near-death experience and insights, and those are cool experiences. Those are remarkable.
Really cool. You look at the work of Raymond Moody and others like him, just astounding, because these near-death experiences, not only do they show us that when you die, you go somewhere, and you can move without any feet. Your heart not pumping. You don't need your shoes for this trip. You're going somewhere. And they often have similar stories of what they experience, which going through the light and meeting people, which makes it all somewhat more credible, because there's an agreed upon definition of what they've seen. But moreover, they come back, and then they talk about the people they've seen at the other side that are no longer here. I mean, I've had that experience, where I meet a room full of people that are no longer physically here. And they're saying, like, "Hang in there, kid." Like, okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's really exciting. And this is, this kind of work has been replicated around the world. I like the work by Dr. Penny Sartori in the United Kingdom. She wrote the book Wisdom of the Near-Death Experience. So she was a nurse that dealt with very difficult cases. And she did this for 20 years. And she found that there are a lot of people that had near-death experiences, and they had a similar experience regardless of their spiritual or religious orientation. Very similar. And it didn't seem to matter what their spiritual orientation was, that they would still have these near-death experiences where they would see people on the other side. They'd walk through the light, and they walk back here, and they'd say, "No, it's not my time." You know, and I think these are important indications that there is life after death, and we do have past life recall, and there are past lives.
Oh yeah, and I think a near-death experience, the what research I've done on it, my late husband and I did a whole series of interviews with people who had experienced past lives, and my favorite was a young girl who had tried to commit suicide, and she tried a number of times, and this one time, the last time she tried, she was talking to me, and she said, "You don't understand. You know, yes, I experienced the light, and I was drawn forward, but," she said, "it wasn't that I was surrounded by love, encased by love, supported by love, drawn by love." She said, "I was love." And it stopped me dead in my tracks, because that, to me, said she was one with spirit. You know, that was an amazing situation for her. And I think so many of us are wanting that experience without, of course, the near-death part.
Right.
But it's I think people who have experienced that do come back, and for the most part, and I can't say 100%, but for the most part, they are changed in that they have a better understanding of the fact that they are part of a community, they are part of a soul group. They become far more loving and giving and kind.
Yeah,
and
I think that's it. I think ultimately, probably that's what we are, in a sense. We are light and we are love. I used to think that these were just like, clever little, expressions. I think it's real.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. And but it's a quality that, unfortunately, if you are that total quality, it's very difficult to live in the physical reality. Tibetan monks do a very good job of it, but they're usually very isolate, and they live in a community of like-mindedness, and they are away from society as a whole. But and they are a group of people that do a tremendous amount of meditation. They can levitate. They can do all sorts of things that all of us can do, but haven't put the work into it. It's like a muscle. You have to work with it, and you have to develop it. And living in today's society makes it very difficult to put that kind of intensity into that kind of aspect.
That's very true. I mean, it's so hard to live in this world as an everyday person and live a standard life and not just get caught in all the mundane trappings of society. Yeah. It is a trap.
I mean, you look
so I
around,
think a lot of people,
No, I think that a lot of people are beginning to isolate themselves a little bit more, not because of, a fear of a germ, but wanting to find that peace that is available. I mean, I work from home, and I have enough room here so that I've got I have a lot of room here, and so that when the pandemic hit, I was isolated, but I'm isolated anyhow because I read books and I do radio shows. So, the fact that I wasn't able to go out and go to concerts and go to baseball games and things like that didn't bother me. And I kind of liked it. So,
but it was a kind of a wake-up call for a lot of people who had to kind of get comfortable within themselves, They didn't have a lot of social interaction and the hubbub of daily life that is so distracting. And they had to, like, kind of reevaluate their values, you know. Like, what is my life about? What should I be doing, you know? And I think for some people it's changed them, the experience of spending time alone, this time of reflection, personal reflection as to how I'm spending my life.
Well, I found that there are a lot of people now today that are, I have a lot of people asking about downloads from spirit, and I do believe that there are a lot more downloads from spirit. I don't believe there are more. I do believe people are recognizing them a lot more, and part of it, I think, has to do with the fact that once they take away the distraction of the radio, the television, the cell phone, that there is an easier channel through which spirit can reach them.
And there are a lot of ways if you really are observant, you know, like we have one of these coming out. Hopefully it'll be in a scroll, but it might be in a book. And it's going to be on animal spirits, totems, and guides, animal guides. And if you really watch, there will be animal spirits come into your life, and they'll tell you something. But the question is, are you listening? Are you watching?
Well, yeah, I have found that. Now I'm a cat person. I have 2 cats. Mm-hmm. I've always had an animal, or 2 or 12. That was extreme, but it's. I do believe that if you are an animal person, most probably you're able to get into alpha faster than most people.
Yeah.
And if you go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say that you definitely, you know, you'll get into alpha, and you can in a dream state, which I guess is often delta. Also, you'll get into a state where you're having sometimes very vivid dreams of an animal pursuing you or frightening you. And this is not for everybody, but many people will have frightening animal dreams. And that's very often an animal spirit trying to impart something to you. If you just stop being afraid, turn around, watch, and listen.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think
everything I know I learned from dogs and cats, honestly, and a few crows.
I have had crows are great. I've had people that have said, you know, they've had a pet that they loved, and you know, how is the pet and whatever thing, and I've said to them, especially the cat owners, and I've said, but haven't you felt them jump on your bed even though they're not there? And people's eyes will get big and say, you mean that was real? And I They are amazing. And animals, for those of you who have them, they don't communicate in words. They communicate in pictures. And if you can send a picture to your animal, cats sorry to say this to any dog lover, but cats rule. And cats have more junk DNA than human beings do.
Yeah. I'm a cat person too, but I've had a couple of dogs, and dogs can teach you something else. You know,
unconditional love, for sure.
Unconditional love, and you know, I learned how to kind of develop a rhythm for living from one of my dogs, because they have this, and you know, and they would have, my dog would come and bark when it was 10 o'clock. That was it. Lights out. That was it. You know, and it absolutely had to be fed regularly. It had to be walked regularly. You know, but cats are very complicated, and they really, really do bond with you. And I can identify with your 12 animals. I had 11 cats once, and the city was all over me. And I said, lock me up.
Oh, my.
Go ahead. Do it. It's going to take, And it's just like, you know, because like all the cat lovers would come to my defense. And, Cats really bond with you and on a deep level to where even when they die, they will return to you.
Oh, absolutely.
And speak to you.
Well, I think that's to me. Come on, the Chinese revered cats. They felt the cats, their cats. The purpose for cats being here was to take heavy energy from people's hearts. And if you have a cat or you're around cat people, you'll notice sometimes. I remember when my mother passed away, my sister and her husband were at the house, and my cat, there was always one of my cats on my sister's lap with their paws on either side of her neck, and my sister said, "They're all hugging me," and I said, "They're pulling heavy energy from you." Yes, of course they're doing that. And and she didn't. I used to have a meditation group that, every week, and there were usually, 60 or 70 people there.
Wow.
And excuse me, and it was interesting to watch, because as the meditation started and I was taking them, into the, connecting energy and being protected and everything, my 3 cats would walk in and they'd walk around the circle and they would each pick a different person. And I found later on that they were picking the people that needed the emotional support more than the others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was quite incredible. And it's amazing that you're right. Animals are there's something about having an animal that awakens another aspect of you inside. And for people who don't have animals, it doesn't mean that they're less than. It just means that they don't possibly need that experience this lifetime. But it is something very profound. And learning to speak in pictures as cats do is something that a lot of people could learn from their cat. And it's a wonderful thing when you start to think in terms of pictures. It's a much more powerful way of constructing things, because you're actually building things. Oh gosh, yeah.
I
had one that was not using her litter box, and I finally decided I'd find a pet psychic, and I went online and I found a pet psychic, and I filled out the paperwork, and it got to how much she was charging, and I shut the computer down, and I took the cat into my lap, and I said, "I am a psychic, I am a medium. I can't afford to spend this kind of money on you, so let's just meditate." And she was on my chest, and I said, "Close your eyes," and I peeked, and she wasn't, and I said, "Close your eyes," and I sent a picture of eyes closed, and she did, and I just visualized her not using the litter box and me being confused, and within a few minutes she showed me one of the other cats jumping her whenever she went into the litter box.
Yeah.
So I gave her a separate litter box, and we had no more accidents.
Yeah.
So it works. Now, do I do it? Do I do it all the time? No, I don't think to do it all the time. I wish I did, but I don't. And it's one of those things. It's a talent, it's a skill, it's a quality, and if you use it, you will get something out of it. But all of these aspects of tuning in and connecting to are like exercising, developing a muscle. You work on it. Whether it's meditation or however you want to. But if you work on the quality, you can develop it, and then it becomes a tool that you can use that is just amazing.
And our pets have so much to teach us. I mean, all animals do, because look at a cat. Then again, a cat is really a skillful meditator, really good, And there are so many things we can learn from these pets. It's just astounding, And one thing I've learned is to be honest with them, because they understand what you're doing, and they understand not only what you're saying, but they understand what you're thinking. once again, because they can read the pictures, right? So, I've stopped trying to con my cats into taking medicine. I say, I'm going to give you medicine. I said, I'll make it easy. And they say, okay. But if I play this game where I'm going to take them to the vet, try to be coy about it, and a lot of vets know that. I mean, I had a vet said, never ever say that you're going to bring your pet to the vet. Say, I'm going to take you to the vet now, because they'll you don't even think it, because they'll know it. They're so good at this. But be honest with them. I'm going to help you. Because they're here to help us. I mean, I honestly think that our pets are very special animals that are here to help us.
And I think now here's a question. I believe they have spirits. I believe they reincarnate.
Oh, yeah.
Do you believe that they evolve into up into the human category, or do you believe animals stay within their own category when they reincarnate?
Yes and no. I think that each one of us has a whole lot to say between lives what we do next, and we're honest with each other. So we're not putting our thumb on the scale. We know what we need. Our spirit knows what we need, and then when it's in that state between lives, it's extremely clear-minded. And it knows what you need, and most of us, however, are comfortable being people because that's what we've been. So we'll come back as people. But I think that cats come back as cats because they're comfortable being cats. But I've had cats, frankly, that have told me that they were rabbits or dogs. I believe them. And I also believe in the transmigration of souls. I think that you're not necessarily destined to be in the same body. I mean, since we're on this subject, I don't for 1 minute really worry a lot anymore about what happens to us if this world has a solar flare or is hit by a meteor or invaded by aliens or we blow it up with an atomic bomb or the climate change. These are all terrible things to be avoided, certainly. But we're going to be somewhere, but we're going to adapt to wherever we are. And I think that every one of us has probably lived on another planet. And if we've lived on another planet, we probably had a different body, because the body would have been adapted for that climatic condition, because there would be different needs to cope with that physically. So I think that I believe ultimately that all animals have souls, and they evolve and they come back, and they usually come back in the same form, but not necessarily. I mean, I'm living with a cat now that is the same cat that died 3 years ago. I know it's the same cat. I mean, absolutely. I'm not just saying that. I mean, it is the same cat. I mean, there are certain indicators. So I think that really we are all one part of one large soul, and this soul is nothing more than a collective consciousness of all of us, and the cats and the dogs and the crows and the snails outside, they're all part of it. We have to be respectful and reverent of all life, because we're all integrated. We're all part of the same life continuum, where life is all integrated and interdependent.
Well, I agree with you totally, and I think that one thing that has bothered me is people talking about aliens, because if you look at the human DNA, and they've done a study and found that the human DNA has changed over the millions of years, and when they took it back to where it was original, they found that the human DNA is older than the Earth, so we had to come from somewhere else.
somewhere.
And what bothers me is that people talk about aliens being alien, and the reality here
the term is inaccurate. Yeah,
it is, because actually we are alien to this planet, and whoever else is out there flying around, they could be the original inhabitants of this planet. We could be the invaders. But what gets me the most is if the source of all creation created everything, then that source created aliens, and there's a piece of that source inside of them as well. So that
that's
we
right.
are...
So, yeah, we think of them as the other. I mean, we've always done this. This is like from our tribal days, you know. Some of us are not really removed from tribal days, I know. But it's the idea that you know, if it doesn't look like us or speak like us, or you know, come from our family, or you know, or we don't know them, they're alien. You know, they come from another country. They're alien. It's a bug we've never seen before. It's an alien bug. You know, it's dangerous. You know, it's an alien from the sky. I mean, it's like those people are just like us. They're us.
Exactly.
We
and I think we have to find another term that refers to people from other planets, because we currently have aliens coming across the border, and they're not UFO aliens. They're just not indigenous to this country. And so when you see people talking about Greys and reptilians and Nordics and all of that, they came from the same place we did. Now, their belief system, their inner truths, may be different from ours because of how they grew up and the society in which they, you know, incarnated into. But bottom line is, we all have the same seed from the same source, and there has to be a way of getting along.
That's right. And it's true even of this world, as you talk about people from other planets, you know. And I suspect there are alien, I use that term again, other races that we're not as familiar with. There probably are hidden, you know, groups of people. You know, what happened to the giants in the earth? What happened to about the abominable snowman and the Sasquatch, and you know, where are they? And you know, how do you relate to the elemental spirits? You know, the earth spirits and the sky spirits. You know, I mean, we used to call the sky spirits in you know, civilizations past as angels. Those are sky spirits. You know, elementals of the air. You know, and they occupy the same place too as us. So as you're going to say, they're alien because they come from a different place, or they come from this place. They live in your backyard.
Well, that's I think one thing that gets me. I think we're going to have to change our terminology shortly, in that not you and I, but society as a whole. That I believe that what we're seeing are interdimensional travelers, not travelers that have traveled in spaceships. But if we see vehicles out there, they're like cars, they're drones. That it's interdimensional rather than in spaceships. So that
we're looking this, Barbara. Did you come to that conclusion intuitively? Because I did.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense. If they're that evolved, they're not going to sit in a tin can. I mean, it's interdimensional. They're coming through portals. That's it.
Portals. Because I mean, I've seen a couple of flying saucers, and the one thing that strikes everybody is 1 minute they're there, and then 1 minute they're gone. They say they left with amazing speed. No, they just went through the dimensions. You know, I mean, they were here, and now they're not. It's the same with elementals. You know, there's sometimes they cross over into our specter of vision. You know, and then we can more easily see and experience them. But they're here. And what is here?
Well, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I think they vibrate at a much higher vibration than we do,
Yeah.
and we just can't see it. And every now and then, you'll see something in the corner of your eye, and it'll go by, and it is either time folding or timelines folding, or I think that we're at a place in time where we have to re-examine our belief system as far as what's going on with some of these other things. I believe we haven't been able to find a Sasquatch or a whatever because they're interdimensional, and they haven't found any bones.
Yeah.
And
typically, people will see them out of the corner of their eye, just a flash, and then they're gone, and you see them, and it's like, when I used to do ghost hunting, it's like I would see them all the time. There would be spirits, and sometimes there were ghosts, and sometimes they weren't ghosts, but they were there, and I couldn't see them except I catch a glimpse of them out of the corner of my eye, and then I could see them. And it occurred to me that we're limiting ourselves because we see with these physical eyes. We're only seeing three-dimensionally, you see. So we have to learn to see with new eyes and hear with new ears. This is going to be hard for some people, but there are things out there that we need to observe.
Oh, absolutely. And now there are a couple of places on Earth that theoretically have portals in them. One, I believe, is the Bosnian Pyramid. I think there's a pyramid in a mountain in Alaska someplace that has another portal in it. I think there are portals all over the place, but they're not all active at this point in time because, to be honest with you, I don't think us as humans are ready to be exposed to or to be exposed to a cosmic brotherhood, where the cosmic brotherhood is taking a look at us and saying, oh man, we've got to put them in isolation for a couple of thousand years to see if they can actually grow out of their tendencies to want to blow everybody up. So I just think we are too focused on war. Every time something new is discovered, the very first thing they want to do is make a weapon out of it. And
well, I mean, the way people think, it's all material, and we just want to have more land, more gold, more people working for us. We just want more, and it's like we don't understand. It's like it's material. It's not real. It's eventually going to turn back into energy. It's not real.
Exactly. Well, it's definitely a journey we're on, and I'm so excited to be here at this particular point in time because I think the next 20 years or so is going to be very interesting. How I do believe society as a whole is going to be forced into changing, and I don't think we've had 5 mass extinctions so far, and they weren't mass. A certain percentage of the population lived to recreate, and I think that we're coming into one of those times. I don't think it's going to be a mass extinction, but if you take a look at the weather and the things that are going on, it feels as though society is moving towards an eruption of energy, and so it's going to be fascinating to watch how it happens because it feels to me as if people's inner truths are going to be seen. Whether they're good or bad is a whole other thing, but I do believe that people that have been hiding how they feel and what they're doing, those mysteries are going to be eradicated, and we're going to be able to see people for what they are and what they've done. And I do feel that there is a revolution that we're coming up on, and it's an awareness / consciousness revolution.
Yep. I think the great awakening that's been forecast is going to happen, but it won't include everybody. You know, I mean, there are those that are going to be hanging on to the material world as though that's all there is, and we're going to go into a near mass extinction very soon, and it'll probably be like blamed on. I'm not saying blamed on, but it'll appear to be weather related, and it will be weather related. You know, it's just like the Earth is a living thing, and it's grown tired of us. And it's time for a reset. It's time for a reset.
Oh yeah.
We're all going to be relocated somewhere. I mean, if there's a big solar flare, and we're burned up in it, you know, individually, it's not like your existence will end. You'll just find yourself somewhere else next week. You know, because life goes on. It just does. It just does. But you're not going to be living in your house anymore or your apartment. That's it. You know, that really wasn't your life anyway. That was just one little page in your life story.
That's true. I do think society as a whole, though, is going to go through some major shifts, and I think we're already seeing truth coming out where people thought it wasn't going to ever be a part of the common knowledge. So that there is a whole bunch of material that we are having to swallow and then having to make changes. And I think that there is an amazing awakening coming, and yet I don't think that we're done with this particular time frame. Are you familiar with Philip Lindsay's different root races?
Yeah.
I mean, so I think that we're in a transition period between two root races, and so, you know, part of us are seeing one thing and another part of us is seeing another, and we're both accurate, obviously, but I think we are coming into a time where everything that we've been doing hasn't been working as well as it should, and so we are moving into another time where things are going to change. And you're right. I think that there are people that just will not accept that reality, and they'll move into a different realm as well. So it's going to be fascinating, and I think a great deal of it has to do with the soul/spirit, and you know where the spirit is taking us next, and it's quite an adventure.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean everybody should charge up their credit cards and stuff like that, and they won't have to pay the debt. No. Trust me, you'll pay it somewhere. But
you'll pay it somewhere. You can pay it now, or you can pay it later. Yeah.
I mean, I at one time said I'm done with karmic debt. Let me just roll it over to the next life. I'll never know what hit me, and it'll make this life a lot easier. Apparently, you can't do that.
You can't really worry about karma. You know, I mean, your karmic debt it's just part of living. You know, it's. I mean, you want to have some positive approach to your karmic balance, but when you live, you're always going to incur karma. There's no getting around it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So how many of your scrolls here are you planning on doing?
Well, we have 8 in mind. We have 8 in mind, but I don't know that they're all going to be scrolls. I'm told that in addition to past lives and lucid dreams, there's going to be 2 more coming out next year of the 8 that I've already written. And I think we're going to change it up. The ones I want them to release next are, let's see here, amulets, talismans, and charms, and elementals, nature spirits, and spirit guides. But the others in the series were going to be magical systems, energy healing, let's see, totems, animal spirits, elementals and nature spirits. That would be a good one. And magical altars. So, I mean, I enjoyed all of them immensely. Just the experience of collecting the information and putting them in a scroll. So I know that there's going to be 2 new ones coming out next year.
I love the
other. Yeah, I mean, I hope we can stay with the scroll, but there are supply problems. There's only one printer in the world that we found so far that can do them. And what if they burn down? I mean, so we're kind of like limited, and and they're costly to produce. I mean, fortunately, the past life scrolls we're talking about tonight are Amazon has agreed to lower the price $8, I think, for a while. So it makes it sort of affordable. But they are costly to produce, because, first of all, they were done as one continuous long sheet of paper. You're feeding them from the left scroll, the scroll you hold in your left hand, and then you hold the scroll in your right hand, and you just feed the paper from one scroll to the other. And it reads left to right very easily. And there's a marker to save your place. So it's once you get the hang of it, it's maybe easier to read than a book, and it folds up properly. It carries easier than a book, and it smells nice because it's made out of nice pine and everything. But, to find a printer that could do one long, continuous printed page, I think it's like 45 feet long, was very, very difficult. We searched in this country, and I participated a little bit in the production. I said, we're going to have to put them in a plastic tube, and we're going to have several sheets that are a foot wide by 21 inches long, because that's the typical press you're going to find in the United States. And they said, we'll look beyond, and they did. Ended up in Tibet. There they are, printing this thing.
Wow.
So, So, I mean, it's been quite an adventure to do them, and then the shipping and everything and the delays and working with one printer that does this odd thing, So, yeah, and I was very aware when I did it, that this is as important as the Dead Sea Scrolls or the Coptic Scrolls or the Nag Hammadi library, the Gnostic books come out of Nag Hammadi. But those were all like, kind of like buried in the earth, and they were not in book form. You have the Babylonian tablets, not book form. So it seemed to me that if you wanted ancient wisdom collected from Mesopotamia and Egypt to today, and you put them in a scroll, and they might survive better than a book. So I was thinking of this, and the publisher said, well, we want to present the ancient wisdom knowledge in the ancient wisdom form, which would be the scroll. So that was his thinking, and I said, well, you're brave to do this. No one else has thought of it, but I'm all for it, So it's been really fun doing these things. I mean, writing my elementals and amulets and gosh, just a lot of fun. Magical systems, the magical systems that have come forward from the Egyptian days to today, and some of it's still with us.
Well, I think too,
really interesting.
Especially with the elementals, there's not a lot of material out there about them, and they are a real important aspect of our life. I mean, when you get to the devas of, what I found fascinating about them was that while a tree will have a deva, there is a higher deva above it that are for all trees of that species, and then there's a deva above that is for all trees, and then there's a deva above that. So there's a hierarchy in the devas too. And I work with the devas of the plants and stuff. I have always gardened and had, plants that I've tended, and I have been blessed with. When I lived in Connecticut, I had a huge piece of property and I had huge gardens because I wanted to really create my own garden. And I discovered immediately that my whole property was built on a gravel pit. Mm-hmm. So I had great drainage but no soil. And so I put the gardens in anyhow, and I, made soil each year. And within 3 years, my gardens looked like they had been there for 100 years. But I was out there every day talking to the devas and saying, hey, you missed this one needs a little bit more. And, just talking to them and having...
People, I mean, they really are a part of our life. And
absolutely.
Not our personal life, but the world around us. And flowers don't grow and trees don't grow without them. They don't. They actually are the gardeners that are making it happen. So if you have no respect for them, I worked with a great psychic healer, Dora Van Gelder Koons. She passed on, and she actually could see the devas, and she would introduce me to the devas. And my relationship with devas of the trees, for instance, and they're really impressive. Is that I worship them. I don't worship them, but I honor them. When I meet them, I honor them. I mean, I have a relationship with the little deva helpers, the dakinis, from the Hindu tradition, the little dakinis, and they're little sprite-like helpers of the devas, and they tell me things. If you want to know what's happening, ask the ones that do the heavy work lifting, the little people on the ground, and those are the bikinis. But the working with all the, I mean, really, if you want to get into working with the elementals, you're really talking about earth magic, and the elemental forces, because they are the actual lifters of earth, air, fire, and water, which is everything in our world.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you're going to work with the elementals, you have to be prepared to walk barefoot on the soil. And
that's right.
I know that when I was in Connecticut and I had that big piece of property, we had storms a couple of times that were predicted, and I would go out in the garden before the storm and I would just say, now look, we've put a lot of work into this, so let's not have it destroyed. Let's make sure we protect it. And it was fascinating because during one storm, a tornado went down one side of the property and wiped out stuff before me and after me, but the garden was left. And then the last one, we had a microburst, but my property was protected and my garden was just fine. And people were saying, well, you were lucky. And I said, oh, we worked hard on this. Trees were sacrificed. I had four trees that were had to be 200 years old that went down, but they went down on the side of the property, not onto the property. And it was just amazing that it was all protected, and since I've moved away, unfortunately, the people living there have ripped out the gardens, which I had worked almost 20 years on, and so I actually, as I was leaving, I went out into the garden and I said, now I'm going to Tennessee, and I don't know what the weather's going to be, but you're welcome to come. And my son said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm inviting the garden spirits to come with us. And he said, there's not room in the car. I said, trust me, there's room. And so we came down here, and I discovered I had no soil here, so I had a pot garden, and my son, who's a lawyer, said, Mom, don't walk around saying you have a pot garden. Just say your plants are in pots. I said, no, I like having a pot garden. And it's really, it's kind of fun because there was a vine that nobody knew what it was, and when I discovered it, I said, geez, this would be really pretty on the fence. Let's see if it'll grow all around the fence, the metal gate, the metal fence. It's just a enclosure. And so this year, it covers the fence. And somebody said, "Did you plant them there?" I said, "I didn't, but I said it does look great. The only trouble is it's invasive as heck." And so we will have a talk about it next year.
Yeah, but when you work with the elementals too, I mean it's a two-way street. I think it's like you can ask things, but you have to have a really good reason, and you have to be willing to work with them. Let me give you an example. I remember once we were going to have a tremendous storm come our way, and it was going to just rain cats and dogs, and it was going to ruin everything that it was a terrible storm. And I went outside, and I asked that the storm be moved in another direction. And I've always since then wondered where the storm went. You see, because it, these things have a reason. They have a real reason.
Oh yeah.
That we can't always see when we ask for something. We have to be willing to take the consequence and actually to work with them. So that when say Earth spirits would build a tree for you, you have to care for the tree. I think that's it's a sacred trust working with the force, with the nature spirits, I think.
Oh yeah, no, I just my days of working with huge gardens are over, but it doesn't mean that I still don't have plants and stuff like that. But it was an amazing experience to be able to take a gravel pit and make it look like an old English garden. And I had help. Yeah. I mean, somebody said to me, I walked, and I was in the woods, and one of the neighbors walked by and said, "I heard you talking to yourself." I said, "I wasn't talking to myself." She said, "Barbara, I heard you." I said, "I was talking to the little people who were helping me garden." I said, "This was not for me," and I got that strange look, but that's okay because I've had that strange look that has been given to me so often. I am very used to it, but it's true. I mean, there are forces, there are elements out there that are just there to work with you if you acknowledge them and you honor them.
And they're compared to us selfless. They're totally in their work. They're dedicated to the element that they serve, that natural force of energy. And what I've had neighbors that would tear down perfectly good trees and flowers that were planted before them and just throw them away, And I'm thinking what do the nature spirits think of that? Probably not a lot, It's saying what we build is no dang good,
Well, I had a boyfriend once who tended his family's graves, and I didn't know his family, I would wander around the cemetery and I would pick up all the pots of dried up bulbs that had been thrown away. And, he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm going to build a redemption garden." Yeah. Took them all home, soaked them all, planted them, and I had the most beautiful garden of lilies you have ever seen. And, and it was sort of, my mother said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm doing a redemption garden." And I said, these are things that people have thrown away that I felt life in still, and I'm going to give them the best soil I can. I'm going to water them, and I'm going to love them. And it was glorious. It was absolutely glorious. And somebody said, "Where did you get all the bulbs?" And I said, "I resurrected them from the dead." Literally.
Yeah. Really.
But if
really.
if you're gonna put flowers, a pot of flowers on somebody's grave, for God's sakes, plant it in the ground. Do not put the pot there and forget about it.
Yeah.
Because that's murder.
Yeah. It is murder. It is murder. You know, I can no longer cut down a tree for Christmas either. I'll be honest about it. You know, I go out in my yard and I find a tree that I love and I adorn it. The tree. You know. So I have a Christmas tree in the front yard and a Christmas tree in the backyard. And
that works.
And after Christmas they're happy. They're just regular trees. One I call the Charlie Brown Christmas tree.
No, I had one of those trees too, and I actually would decorate it with birdseed and bird feeders and stuff, so that you know it fed the neighborhood, and it always had, you know, cardinals and blue jays and stuff like that around it, so that you know, if I was lucky, they ate it all right before Christmas, and then, you know, but it's sort of like. We have to find another way of celebrating our relationship with the Earth Mother, because if we don't celebrate it, you know, she'll just, you know, find somewhere to go where she is celebrated. And I think that, you know, we can create such beauty by being a part of it, as opposed to, you know, imposing our will upon it and determining what we think it should be, but helping what's there to grow and to be nourished.
Exactly, a celebration of life. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited about your future scrolls, because I think that it's an easier way to read the material. It truly is. When I got the scroll, I was trying to sit and read it and, you know, hold it and roll it in both hands, and I said, no, that's not going to work. And I put it on my desk, and I put a paperweight on one end and a paperweight on the other, and I literally would just, you know, read from left to right, and it was no page turning, no nothing. It was just, I was in the material and it flowed, and then I just rolled it on one end and unrolled it on another end, and I found it much easier to read than reading a book.
Yeah, we let the production art department at Schiffer Books come up with that, and because I mean it was so much better than what I thought, which was rolled up paper in a tube. You know, and then the other model we had was a scroll that just pulls down. You know. And that's hard to read, because people don't read that way. They read left to right, you know. So, I hope all 8 come out. You know, I think it's getting people accustomed to what was old is new again, and that is the scroll. Because
I think
it's different.
I think also you have taken your material, and as you said earlier, that you wrote as a magazine article, so that each section is an article, but it's got all the material in it that you would have had in a book had it been a chapter, and your material is just it's so crisp and clear and concise that it doesn't need another 30 or 40 pages for each of the topics, because everything is right there.
No. So the publisher, after I did the first 4, he said, "Did you find the word count I gave you? Did you find it confining?" And I said, "No. There's no words I would add and no words I would subtract. You know, because this is just what came to me. This is it. You know, this is it. You know." But you know, it's I mean, it takes somebody all the way through from the ancient times to conscious living, conscious dying. Now, I mean, all the way through, you know, Plato's theory of recollection, you know, and a priori knowledge. It takes us all the way through all of that to today, you know, and past lives and past life recall, you know, and near-death experience, and more and more people are sharing their memories of past lives. I mean, it's amazing the number of children that have recounted in great detail a previous life, and they had no time to study. This is just absolutely within their memory core on a deep level.
Well, the one that I've read about so often is that I think it was a Tibetan little boy who said he was really married in another village, and he kept talking about it, that, you know, he was this person from this other village, and he was married, and he had children, and finally, after many years, they took him to the other village. He identified his wife, he was able, and his children, and I mean, there's no way he could have known what he knew. But there's one, you know, that's a great story. But the one that fascinates me. Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was going to say another one from Tibet was the story of Tibet is the Dalai Lama, and
that's where I was going to go.
Yeah. The 14th Dalai Lama, you know, and 13 times in a row, when the Dalai Lama passes, the high lamas of Tibet would go door to door, and they would interview children, and they would find the child that had intimate memories and knowledge of the previous Dalai Lama that this child could never have been, you know, prepped to know. Just absolutely knew that was the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama.
Oh yeah, I know when they brought him to Tibet, he was being shown the chambers, and at one point he said, "That's where I put my teeth," and it was. And he's an amazing man, and the way I think they had some idea as to what section of the country his incarnation was going to be in, and I think they found him at age 7, I think 7 or 9. He was very young.
Yeah, very young, and there was just no way that he could have been prepped for that, because they just kind of descended on him, and he just knew everything. It's just amazing. It's kind of like my cat, you know, that showed up and it knew everything the other cat knew. It carried its tail the same way. It looked at me the same way, and it knew where all the toys were. It knew where the secret passages were. It's like, come on, it's the same guy, you know.
Well, I've had one cat that came back, and it was the cat. It was the same cat, and I expect to find him one more time before I cross. And I have 2 cats now, and he's not one of them, but I know that I will find him again, and he will be around me until I cross over. I just know I'll find him again, or he'll find me.
Very often I'll have a lucid dream quite often where I'm in the company of many of my deceased cats, and always the cat that organized the reunion will come forward and say, these cats wanted to see you. So it wouldn't be the same cat each time, but one cat would organize the reunion, and they would just kind of hang out with me for a few hours. And I'd say, this is great. I said, we're all going to get together again. And the concept is that we're never apart, you know. The past, in the future, and in the now, it's all blurred together.
I have a brother and sister who are very different. I mean, she has a vocabulary on her that is every curse word that was ever made, and he's sweet. And And he tucks me in every night. He waits for me to kind of settle down in bed, and he comes up and he kneads me all along my body. So he tucks me in. Then he checks me out and makes sure I'm going to stay still, and he goes off to wherever he goes at night. And yet in the morning they're both in my bedroom. But Pete tucks me in every night. It is the most a unique thing for me. So
wow.
And I love it. I love being tucked in. I've not been tucked in before.
That is a nice touch. I have a cat that just comes and stands on top of my chest when I'm trying to sleep, and I can only take it so long. And she sleeps the rest of the night next to me until it's the break of dawn, and then she's out looking through the window at the birds. The birds.
Oh, yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I have a bird feeder for in the winter. They talk to the birds. And, once I looked at one of the cats, said, "You don't really believe they understand you, do you?" And, I just kind of look like, "Who are you?"
Who are you?
Yeah, don't interrupt me. I'm busy talking to this bird. But no, it is a joy to have animals, and if you can have them, I recommend them. And if you're not an animal person this lifetime, then I'm sure there have been lifetimes you have been. It doesn't mean you're missing a quality within you. It just means it isn't your time to recognize that. Some people, I'm allergic to cat hair, but I blame it on pollen, and there's no way I would not have my cats or a dog.
Well, I never thought I was allergic to cats. I had a lot at one time too, and I volunteered at the Humane Society to go in and groom them and massage them. And when I get into the second hour, I was sneezing, and I didn't realize it. I'm allergic to cats, and yet I've always been around cats. So.
Well, my mother said to me, you're allergic to cats. You shouldn't have any animals. And I said, I know the allergy test said I was allergic to cats. But if I have to live on Allegra and Kleenex, I will, because I will always have cats. And that's it.
I don't trust people that don't like cats, by the way.
Well,
something funny.
Yeah, I had a friend who was not that I met after 60 years, to kind of it was kind of cool. And when they came to the house, they were just so cats, and I thought, well, you're out of here. And it was like
exactly, yeah.
You don't like my cats? That's too bad, because they've been with me longer than you have, and they're going to be with me when you're gone, and you're going to be gone real soon. So no, I agree, but that's extreme, and I realize I'm extreme. But I want to get back to your book again, your scroll again. Yep. Where can people find it?
It is available in bookstores, or you can ask them to order it. It's from Schiffer Publishing. It's a red feather imprint, and you can get it online, either at Amazon online, or you can get it at Barnes & Noble online. And as I say, I know that Amazon has an $8 discount on the scroll, the Past Lives scroll, for a while, which is very nice of them to get people used to it. You see, and and you can read about it there, how it explains how it works. It's really quite easy. People think, oh, how would I do a scroll? It's pretty easy. So there's a little tutorial, and there's little pictures there how you do it, and explains how we did it and why we did it. It's like a book, but it's not a book. So Amazon said, what are you going to call it? And so we called it a book supplement. It's not a supplement.
Oh, okay.
It's something different, So yeah, it is available. Well, you can order it quite easily.
Well, I have to admit, I was at first, because I always buy the book of the author that I'm going to be interviewing, because I like to support them.
I appreciate that. Some don't.
And
Some don't.
So I was disappointed it wasn't on Kindle, and then I realized once I got the scroll and once I got reading it, it's like this has to be read as a scroll. It, if you put it on Kindle, it just wouldn't be the same. And
it wouldn't be the same.
Like I have said before, the flow of energy in the scroll. Once you have it weighted down in two places, you literally are just moving left to right. You're flowing with the text, and it's a pleasure and a joy to read. And it's beautifully, beautifully done, and the information is phenomenal. And there's only 50 pages, and so it was.
Well, that's the other thing.
We
thought that people don't like to have long reads anymore. Most unfortunately, a lot of people don't read to the same extent they used to. So we're trying to come up with a quicker way to do it. That was our first goal, was to make it quicker, and then to make it not a book, And then we ended up with the scroll because it was ancient wisdom knowledge. But I think that we're going to probably in the future get away from books, and I don't know that Kindle's the answer, or book or audio books are the answer, or scrolls. But I mean, people are looking. The information is still important, and relaying the information. This is ancient wisdom knowledge.
Because of the radio show, I read about 60 books a year, and with the pandemic, authors were getting very verbose. So I've had to struggle through 600 and 800 page books. Authors had too much time on their hands.
I worked for a publisher who said books by the pound, and I said to him, a good writer learns to condense. Or you're not really a good writer. I'm sorry. I know Plato's The Republic, there are good examples of the other direction. But, Pilgrim's Progress maybe, I don't know. But, sometimes it's just they don't edit, and we tried very hard to be sparse with this because I wanted everybody to see where it's kind of like it tells a story from the past life experience, going all the way back to the ancients, the Chaldean times and the Assyrians, all the way through the Egyptians and the Romans and the Greeks and the Tibetans, and all the way down to where we are today, thinking about conscious living and conscious dying. It tells a story, but you have to know the beginning to know the end.
Well, I just noticed the time, and we are out of it. But I do want to remind people that you're going to be back here in November on the 13th.
November.
I think. And
13th.
And that's going to be with Lucid Dreams, and I'm still looking forward to doing that book as well. I want to thank you so much for spending time with me and for going into all of this material. This has been a wonderful, wonderful 2 hours for me.
Thank you, Barbara. I loved it. Thank you.
Me too. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yep. Take care.
So thank you, everybody, for being here. I'll be here next Monday, God willing, and the creeks don't rise. And the creeks is meant that term means it was an Indian tribe, not a real creek. But do look forward to next Monday, another cool author, and please check out the scrolls. If you've never read a book on a scroll, you've missed something. Check this one out. It is special and spectacular. Good night, everybody.